Good morning, all of you. We are doing chapter number 4, Newton's Laws of Motion. We have started the chapter and gone through the force, what are the types of force, contact and non-contact forces, units of forces. And we have completed assignment number 1 also. Till here, last time we have completed. Today we will start from Galileo's concept of motion. How did Galileo's concept of motion lead to Newton's first law of motion? So for that, Galileo observed that on an inclined plane, the velocity of a body increases as it rolls down and decreases as it climbs up. He wanted to know how the velocity of a body would affect in the planes if the plane was horizontal. For this, he performs the following experiment. So he has done an experiment with three inclined planes, two planes having equal inclinations and two inclined planes having unequal inclination, and one inclined plane and the other horizontal plane. So he has done three experiments, this one and this one. So in the first one, he has observed that when he rolled a ball of steel or a marble from one side, he says that the ball rolled down from one side attains the same height on the other side. That means the ball gone from here and attains the same height. That means this equals to this. H, small h equals to small h. This h equals to this h. Okay. In the second one, when he rolled the ball, he observed that the ball attains the same height, but it covers a long distance because this distance is less and this is greater than this. Okay, but attains the same height. The heights are same. Equals to. Okay. But here, in case of point number 3, when he rolled the ball on a horizontal plane, the ball goes to infinity if it is an frictionless plane. Okay, so he concluded that when the inclination of one plane is reduced to 0, the ball rolled down from the more inclined plane continues to move on the horizontal plane. That is, motion along a horizontal plane would be perpetual. From these observations, Galileo argued that if a body is in motion, it will continue to move with the same speed and along the same straight line path, provided it is not affected by any external force. Okay, that means there should be no foundation of any external force over there. It should be free of any external force and it would be free from any friction. Now, Newton's laws of motion. Sir Isaac Newton has put 3 laws in the year 1686. These are Newton's first laws of motion, which is also known as inertia and momentum, Newton's second laws of motion, force and acceleration, and Newton's third laws of motion, that is cause and effect. So we will read about inertia. What is inertia and how does it work? We have seen that a body continues to be in the state of rest or of uniform motion unless some external force is applied to it. Galileo called this property of objects inertia. That means if there would be no foundation of force or external force applied on a body, it will continue to move until and unless any external force acts on it. In which direction? In the direction of the force only. Inertia of the body may be defined as the property of the body to resist any change in its state of rest or of uniform motion in the straight line. Now, inertia of mass. What is the measure of inertia? From our common experience, we know that it is easier to move a small and light object than a heavy object. Thus, large or heavy body shows a greater resistance to change its states of rest or uniform motion. Thus, a heavier body has more inertia than a lighter body. Suppose that here one example is given. Thus, if we consider two bodies A and B having mass 1 kg and 5 kg respectively, then body B having more mass have more inertia than the body A. Suppose we have a book of class 1. So you know that class 1 books are very thin. We can easily put it from one desk to another. But when we go to the college and take a book of any of the subjects, they are very thick and they have heavy masses also. So it would not be easy for us to move the book very frequently. Suppose that we are moving a chair, a plastic chair, from one place to another. It may be easy for many of the people to move it, but when we want to move a bed, full bed, we will not be able to do that because of its heavy mass. So from that we conclude that larger mass has larger inertia, smaller mass has smaller inertia. How many types of inertia do the material body have? They have three types: inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and inertia of direction. So one, rest, motion and direction. Now, how to demonstrate the property of inertia? For that we have to do an activity. To demonstrate that the property of inertia, we have to take some materials: empty glass tumbler, square piece of card, 50 paisa coin. Now the procedure: take an empty and dry glass tumbler, place a square piece of thick smooth cardboard on a playing card over the mouth of the glass like this. This one is probably. Then cover the mouth of the glass like this and place a 50 paisa coin at the center of the card as shown in figure. That means this one is 50 paisa coin. Okay. Now in the second step, now flick the card horizontally, striking it hard with your second finger, whatever the second or third, whichever the finger you want to, but you have to strike it hard. The card flies away and the coin falls into the glass. That means here what happens over here, you may be able to see. Now explanation: inertially both the card and the coin are at rest. We know that both of them are at rest. When the card is flicked, it comes into motion, but the coin however remains at rest due to the inertia of rest. As a result, only the card flies away and the coin falls into the tumbler. This concludes our experiment. This one. Now example of inertia: why are passengers thrown in forward direction when a running bus stops suddenly? Because their full body is in motion, but when the bus stops, their lower body, which are in contact with the bus, it comes into the rest, but the upper portion of our body is in motion. That is why it tends to fall forward. Now second example: why do passenger tends to fall sideways when the body takes a sharp turn? Similarly, as like this, the lower portion, full body in the motion and in the direction of the bus. When the bus takes a sharp turn, the lower portion of the body turns with the bus, but the upper part of the body, which is not connected with the bus, tends to fall or lean sideways. Okay, now why should passengers hold on a support to prevent himself from swaying in a turning bus? Same case over here, because the passenger's full body is in motion and in the direction of the bus. The passenger, due to this, when the bus takes a turn, it changes its direction of motion. The passenger, due to this inertia of motion, however, continues to move in the original direction. So the passenger does not hold on the support, he will soared away. Now, why do passengers in the bus tends to fall backward when it starts suddenly? Same example, the body in the state of rest, but when the bus starts, only the lower portion of our body gets the motion of the bus, but the upper portion of our body is at rest. That is why the lower portion moves forward and our upper portion moves backward. Now, another example, why does a passenger jumping out of the rapid moving bus falls forward with his face downwards if he does not runs forward? Same example, same process, logic is there, that our body, the bus is in the motion, and with the motion of the bus our body is also in the motion. When we fell down, we comes in the contact with the ground, which is at rest. That is why our lower portion comes at rest and upper portion, that means our face, is in motion. That is why we fell forward with our face downwards. For preventing that, we have to run forward to reduce the motion of inertia. Why can dust be removed from a carpet by shaking it or by beating it with a stick? Because here both the carpet and the sand is in the state of rest. When the carpet is shaken or beaten with a stick, the carpet is set into motion, but the sand is at the rest. Due to inertia of rest, the dust particles tends to remain at rest. As a result, the dust particles falls off. Now, why does a bullet fired against a glass window pane makes a hole in it and the glass pane does not crack, while a stone striking the same glass pane will smash it? Because the motion of the bullet is very fast and the motion of the stone is slower compared to the bullet. That is why when the glass pane which comes in contact with the bullet immediately shares a very large velocity of the bullet and flies away, making a hole. The remaining part of the glass, due to inertia of rest, remains at rest and not smashed. However, when a slow moving stone strikes the glass pane, a much larger area of the glass pane gets enough time to share the velocity of the stone. As a result, the glass smashes. Why does an athlete takes a longer jump if he comes running from a distance than when he jumps suddenly from the take-off line? Because running from a distance, the athletes gains a speed. This leads to an increased inertia of motion. Due to this increased inertia of motion, the athlete is able to jump longer because of inertia of motion. Now, Newton's first laws of motion. A body continues in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless an external force acts on it. In other words, a body opposes any change in their state of motion. For example, a book lying on a table is in state of rest. It will remain so unless one picks up or moves it from its position to another. Suppose that you have kept a book on your table. It will be there when you come back from the school until and unless some of your guardians or your friends or your mother or your brother or sisters doesn't move it from the place. Now, Newton's first laws of motion is also called Galileo's laws of inertia. How does Newton's first laws of motion define force? Newton's first laws of motion provides us with the definition of force. According to Newton's first laws of motion, a body does not change its state of rest or the state of motion unless acted upon by a force, what we have discussed earlier. Thus, we can define force as something which can change the state of rest or motion, uniform motion of a body. So, this illustration questions you have to read and solve this assignment number 2. Now we are going to start Newton's second laws of motion. Now, Newton's second laws of motion gives us the method of measuring force. Now, Newton's second laws of motion we have seen in the previous section, that means in Newton's first laws of motion, that when a force is applied on a body, its velocity changes. So we can say that force applied on a body produces an acceleration in it. Now, experimentally, it has been found that the acceleration produced in a body is directly proportional to the unbalanced force applied on the body and inversely proportional to the mass of the body. That means the formula comes over here: acceleration produced in a body directly proportional to force applied on the body, this one, and acceleration produced in a body directly proportional to 1 by mass of the body. Combining these two, we can write acceleration in a body proportional to force applied on a body by mass of the body. Force applied on the body proportional to mass of the body into acceleration produced in the body. This relationship can be written in the form as force proportional to mass into acceleration. This is the second law of motion, and it defines that the force acting on a body. So what is Newton's second laws of motion? The force acting on a body is directly proportional to the product of the mass of the body and the acceleration produced in the body by the force, and it would be defined by this. Now, linear momentum. What is linear momentum? The product of the mass of a body and its velocity is called the linear momentum. That means moment of a body is denoted by P, and mathematically moment of body is equals to mass of the body into velocity of the body, or P equals to small m into small v. Momentum is a vector quantity, thus the momentum of a body has both magnitude and direction. That means it may move in like that. What are the units of momentum? Momentum of a body is given by momentum equals to mass into velocity. So the units of momentum depend upon the units of mass and velocity. So units of momentum is equals to unit of mass into unit of velocity. So SI unit of momentum equals to SI unit of mass into SI unit of velocity, and here the SI unit of mass is measured in kilogram and velocity is measured in meter per second. So SI unit of momentum is equal to kilogram into meter per second. So kilogram meter per second. This one is the unit of momentum in SI unit. Now change of momentum in second laws of motion. How is the change in momentum related to force? Let F acting on a body of mass m produce an acceleration small a in the body. Then from the second laws of motion we get force is equals to mass into acceleration. If force, that means capital F, acting on a body of mass small m changes its velocity from small u, that means initial velocity, to final velocity small v in time t, then acceleration is given by acceleration small a equals to change in velocity by time taken. That means small a equals to final velocity. Change in velocity means final velocity minus initial velocity, because initial velocity initially is 0. So v minus u by t. Now substituting the values of small a from equation 4.5 and 4.4, that means from here and here, F equals to mass into acceleration equals to m into v minus u by t, or mv minus mu by t. As per definition, final momentum pi, final equals to m into v, initial velocity p initial equals to m into small u. So equation 4.4, 4.6 and 4.7 can write F equals to pi final minus pi initial by t. One can write equation 4.8, force equals to change in momentum of the body by time taken, or force equals to rate of momentum of the body. Thus Newton's second law of motion can also be defined as the rate of change of momentum of the body is equal to the unbalanced force acting on it and takes place in the direction of the force. Why? Because they are unequal. Now units of force. What are the units of force? From the relationship we know that F equals to mass into acceleration. We can write 1 unit of force is equals to 1 unit of mass into 1 unit of acceleration. Thus a unit of force, that much force which when acts on a body of 1 unit mass produce an acceleration of 1 unit in the direction of the force. So we have got that 1 Newton equals to 1 kg meter per second square. Now what is gravitational unit of force? A gravitational unit of force is defined as that force which produces an acceleration equal to the acceleration due to gravity of the body of 1 unit mass. So kgf. What are non-SI unit of force? Non-SI unit of force are dyne, ground force. Dyne and ground force. You will read this elaborately. And kilogram force. There are some numericals given over here based on the equations we have read earlier. So you have to read this numericals. Now we have to read some examples of second laws of motion in our daily life. So have you seen that a fielder pulls his arm back while trying to stop or catch a ball, cricket ball? Why did he do so? Because the fielder catches the ball by gradually putting his hands back along with the ball. This is done due to decrease the rate of change of momentum by increasing the time. As a result, the fielder has to apply lesser force to stop the ball, so the ball will exert lesser force on the hand of the fielder and the fielder will not get out. Okay. For reduce the momentum, and increase the time. Now, why does a ball on why if you fall on a hard surface, that means on a concrete floor, you will hurt more than you fall on a sandy surface? Because same over here, when a person falls on a hard concrete floor from a certain height, its speed gets reduced to zero suddenly. That means it will comes to the rest at very small interval of time. So the rate of change of momentum is very large. Therefore, the force exerted by the person on the floor is very high due to the reaction. The force exerts equal force on the body of the person. Therefore, a person falling on a hard concrete floor gets hurt. On the other hand, when the person falls on a sandy surface, the surface sinks under the weight of the person. Therefore, the rate of change of momentum of the body is small. As a result, the force with which the person falls on the sandy surface is small. Therefore, a person falling on the sandy surface does not get hurt badly. Again, another example. How does a karate player breaks a pile of tiles or a slab of ice in a single blow? Have you seen this? Everyone have seen this in TV. Maybe some of the persons are lucky to see it live, but most of us have seen in the TV. A karate player strikes a pile of tile or ice with his hand in a very short interval of time. In doing so, the entire momentum of the hand is reduced to zero in a very short interval of time. As a result, a very large force delivered to the pile of the tiles it in a single blow. Now, another example. Why does a boxer moves his hand backward to minimize the effect of oncoming punch? Because to minimize the effect of the oncoming punch, the boxer increases time interval. That means when he moves back, the punch will hurt him with a very large force. This causes a decrease in the rate of change of momentum. As a result, the force delivered by the punch gets reduced and the opponent will get hurt, so not so badly, it would be reduced the force. Next, you have to do these illustrative questions and read these questions, and you have to solve this assignment number 3. So your homework is assignment number 2 and assignment number 3. Next day we will start Newton's third laws of motion. Till then, thank you. Goodbye.